Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. This is an exciting interview for me. First time I've met this gentleman. I played on his track, which was released worldwide a couple weeks ago. Damian Tyner, all the way from where are you sitting right now, my friend?
I am sitting in Lake Havasu, Arizona, right in the center of town.
Beautiful, walking around in shorts, and I just came in from having a cigarette in the freezing cold up here in Canada. But so good to finally meet you, man.
Yeah, likewise, man. It's. I feel like I know you because we've kind of like worked and talked, through this project so far. But good to
Absolutely, and I'm a lot better
actually talk
looking.
to
I'm a lot better looking in person, so it's great.
you.
So,
All
all
right.
joking aside, I get a text from Doug Franklin a number of months ago. He sends me this song, and he says, "Project that I'm working on. I work with Doug at RFL Records. Project that he's working on. Would I be interested in laying the track down for it?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." Purple Flower, a very personal song for you. We'll go into my part in it, but Doug wanted me to talk to you about the story behind it, because when I listened to the lyrics, it was like I didn't know the story, but something was up, something very personal had taken place. What's the background of this song?
Well, the background, my friend Ginger, and she's my best friend's wife, my good brother. I consider him to this day. We've known each other for 20 something years back, since we were back in high school, and which is about the time they got together. And, we were a pretty wild bunch. And Ginger, who the song is about, was kind of a good friend of the band. She kind of kept us all in line because we were all, sort of crazy and wild. And in 2010, there was kind of a split, and someone got involved, and these two girls ended up abducting her and killing her. And we and at the funeral, was where the concept for the song kind of came about. And obviously we missed her, and it was a terrible experience. I don't want to really get into all the gory details, but it was tragic, and it was something that you just couldn't look away from. There was no way to just kind of put that away. And so it became a song. And at her funeral, we were all stacking bouquets of purple flowers on her casket, which was her favorite color. That was how that came about. And I took one of the flowers out of my bouquet, and I took it down to Long Beach, where I'm originally from, and I set it out to sea, where my mom's ashes were left. And I could hear the song in my head, like before I ever wrote it down or tried to play it. I could just hear it in my head. And the girl, why did you carry on that way? Like, and part of me was angry. And last time I saw her alive, we weren't in really good standing, but all that went aside when she was kind of taken away. And so the song came out of that. And there's so many different little details about almost every line of that song. Sort of has a backstory. And but in a nutshell, that's kind of what happened. My best friend's wife was killed. She was also a good friend of mine. And and the funeral hit home, and the song was essentially, it was one of those songs that I didn't even have to think about. I just kind of wrote it down, and it was just out there. And not every song comes that easily, but that one, it just had to be there. And of course, I played it for 13 years in the Dirt Boys. It was a kind of a big point of all of our shows. And we would dedicate it to her, and a lot of times Richard would be there, her husband. And it kind of became a fan favorite of the band. And here's where we get to Doug Franklin. He did a thing called Operation Desert Scream, and he had the Dirt Boys come out. He heard the song, and I gave him a CD of an old version of it. And and he was like, that song, there's something about that song. And we kept going back and forth. And and then Jeff and yourself got involved. And I recorded it here in this front room, and sent it off to you guys. And that's kind of, there's the long and the short of it all there.
Sure. And her final resting place is where?
Down by the Hollywood sign at the Glendale Forest Lawn. It's kind of behind it in that area. Um, yeah, she was very down there. It was really, if you ever seen the My Chemical Romance Helena video, it was like it looked like something right out of that. Like I could see the lights coming through the chapel. It looked like her curly hair. We played "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd at her funeral, and "Silent Lucidity" by Queen Strike. Because she was a metalhead through and through. She would, she would have wanted that, and so there was a lot of hard rock stuff being played at the funeral there in the chapel. It was I don't I miss her. I still think of her often. Me and Richard, her husband, it comes up every conversation.
And
I, you
she's wrestling with the stars now, right? Because that's a very predominant resting place in California.
yeah, it's a huge cemetery. I don't want to throw names and be wrong, but there are a lot of big Hollywood stars and musicians. I'm sure that we know down there. I'm sure a lot of music videos were filmed there. I think maybe "Seize the Day" by might have been filmed there. It looks a lot like it. Uh, Other videos that I've seen kind of remind me of that graveyard, and every now and again we'd stop by there and kind of clean it off. And purple flowers have sort of all started growing on the hill,
Oh,
right there near her grave, and that's a trip. I don't know if it's pollination from all those thousands of flowers that were on the casket at one point, or what, or maybe the coming about of this song, but I don't know. There's lots of purple flowers all over the hill next to her there.
that's amazing, and it's funny because obviously Doug Franklin, and Doug thinks he's Canadian. We gotta. He thinks he's Canadian, but he's originally from. He's not. I think he's from Ohio, but he's in California now. So he sends me the song, and I'm listening to it. And my first thought is, this guy's got a voice that I've never really heard before. I've never heard that type of voice before. I listen to the song, I hear the lyrics, and it's like, okay, they're very personal. There's something behind it. So I said to Doug, I don't want to know the story, but send me some. They sent me this rough demo. So it was you playing guitar and singing, and maybe a scratch drum track, or I think he said maybe somebody played drums on it. He sent me a video of the Dirt Boys playing the song.
Yeah.
And so when I'm trying to get it together, I'm taking all these pieces. And my one thing when I was doing it was I had two goals. One, I want to do a good job on it because it was a very personal song. And two, if it became something that people followed, I didn't want it to have to be this drum part that would, nobody'd be able to play, that was just crazy. So I hope I did a good job for you on this song.
I absolutely loved it. I loved stuff. There was some hi hat work going on in there. Yeah, I originally sent myself playing drums, and I knew it was terrible. I was but no, you nailed it on the head. It was like it was meant to be played that way all along, and especially the double bass stuff at the end. As the songs fade out, it was all the buildups. Everything was in the right place as far as I'm concerned, and Jeff did an excellent job at getting such a big sound out of your drums there, and it's I like it. It's not the way that the Dirt Boys played it, back then, and that's good because I've played the song with and without the Dirt Boys, and no, I really like it. I from the bottom of my heart, that was just such an excellent part, that you did for it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I know I'm doing some recording with Mr. Westlake, and that's Jeff Westlake, formerly of Hydrogen, and studying under Michael Wagner, who worked with everybody from Dawkins to Warrant to Scorpions to a bunch of and the thing about Jeff is you immediately know where you stand, right? There's no gray area. He likes
Yeah,
it. Yes, he doesn't. He tells you, but the man gets some cool sounds at everything he does.
yeah. No, I'm super impressed. I know I just sent some more tracks to him, and looking forward to see what goes on in his mind with them and how they come to life. I've never had anybody kind of like help me with the process of my songs before. I've always just written them and kind of throw them out there live. I never, in all the years that I've been playing, I never really got into the recording aspect till the last year or two. I wished I would have all along. Maybe I would have had some great albums out by now. But But I'm getting into it now. Jeff's really helping me because he kind of explains things to me that I don't really know what I'm talking about.
And he talks like this. He's got that little sort of southern drawl, right? But I mean, the thing about Jeff that I really like and the tracks that I've worked on with him so far, I mean, he gives you feedback, but he lets you be you. So you're doing the track and, maybe clean this up or do this, but he's not one of those guys that micromanages a track in terms of what you play. And I think it's twofold. I think it's, he trusts the people that he's working with. He trusts that they're going to be prepared, but he also knows that whatever you send him, he's going to be able to make that sparkle and sound amazing.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed with the work when I got it. When I first heard the first kind of mix downs, I was blown away. Like, wow, that sounds really good. And I was just blown away. And the drum part that you did was great, and the way that he blended my vocals and the multiple guitars. I used a 12 string, a 7 string, and a 6 string that were all sort of doing different things over each other there. I don't know. He really captured it.
That tune's getting a lot of it's getting a lot of play. I mean, I'm on the threads with Doug. I see all, everything that Doug puts out. It was released, you might as well say worldwide, a couple of weeks ago. Doug is giving everybody the updates about, where it is, where it's being played. What do you think about that? That, like, I'm sitting there here and, I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I'm going, wow, a tune that I played on is being played in Japan and Germany. And, when you're doing interviews with people all over the place, what do you think about that?
That's another new concept to me. I put it around the desert in San Diego and the southwestern region of the U.S. and I always thought my crowd, anybody who heard me, was basically limited to that, and they either kind of had to be there or maybe they knew how to get their hands on some very rare recordings that were out there. And but yeah, no, that's kind of mind blowing. I saw it was like up on like a number 2, new release thing in Australia. And I was like, Australia, man, I hope that people are taking it. And it's hitting them in the heart. They don't really have to know the story behind it or who it's about to get, the idea of, a wayward, girl that somebody cares about, being lost. And there's a lot of aspects to that go beyond just the story, the particular story it was telling. And so I hope it's hitting people out there. Maybe it might steer a wayward girl off from her course by hearing that song. I really don't know. And but I know that it's out there and it needs to be out there. And it's a trip talking to some of my friends. Like, yeah, the song just got radio airplay, and they're like looking at me like, I this superstar or something now. And I don't even know how to process it all, really. And I just mostly I'm just happy that it's getting out there. If nothing else, that is the thing that I am the happiest about is that it's getting out there and everybody gets to hear a little piece of my story and Ginger's story. And I have about 60 original songs that I've written that really have never been recorded, that are finished, along with other bits and pieces of other songs. But I got 60 complete songs that all are very personal parts of my life.
Well, I hope to get to be able to play in a few more. And you and I have never been to Australia, but now we can say we kind of have been to Australia, right?
Yeah. There's a friend that I have locally that I see him once in a while, and he's from Australia, and he likes the song. So, maybe he's talking to his folks, out there. Of course, my good friend McKinley, I jam with. He's from Canada. I think Toronto originally. I was hoping maybe he'd show up tonight and step in and say hello, but I think he's got stuff going on. And
that'd be cool.
Yeah,
I lived in Toronto for 7 years, so he and I could kind of talk all the little idiosyncrasies of out there. Question I have for you though, and I'm one of these guys so I'm a big influence guy in terms of my playing, right? Like somebody will come to me and say, where'd you come up with that fill? And I won't sit there and go, oh, it's mine. I'll go, this record, third cut, second chorus, played it note for note. Like there's so many good things out there that I'll take bits and pieces. So I guess I'm a hybrid player. Who are some of your influences?
Um, I mean, first and foremost, Metallica was probably one of my biggest influences. Aerosmith was huge early on. Def Leppard, Tool became a really driving force behind my music at one point.
Aerosmith, you say?
Oh yeah,
Just picked her
good
up
one.
on vinyl, bro.
Yeah, no, I love Permanent Vacation was my very first album of all time.
Nice.
And, and I remember saving my allowance, pulling weeds in the front yard. Finally got, took me down to like Target or someplace, and I got it. And it was because of the song Angel.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and um, and it's funny because I was a little kid. I had no idea what they were really talking about, lying in bed, at night alone, learning for, and I had no clue, I would play it over and over, and my dad would just kind of look at me like, "Man, you don't even know what that song is about." I just, Angel, and it was so pure hearted, and then Aerosmith, then the Get a Grip, and that era came out, and I just, I followed suit. And Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, I actually never wanted to sing. I wanted to be a guitar player, and I only ended up being a singer because nobody else would ever do it when I was in bands. And oddly enough, I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice for a long time.
Well, I want to bring that up because like when I first heard the tune, I was just like I was like, okay, this is a different sounding voice. Like when I grew up, I was, Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden was somebody, Ronnie James Dio, and Westlake and I are, huge into Dio.
Yeah.
Guys like I heard your voice and I'm like, this is for first I'm like, okay, what the hell is he doing here? And then
Yeah.
the more I listen to it, it's just like it's unique. I don't know where is that
I I
what
can
comes
point
from
out a
your mouth
couple
or
things like James Hetfield from Metallica. There, that was vocally a big influence. Jim Morrison, because he kind of had some of those smoother, grittier sort of things. Maynard from Tool. I mean, I don't have his range. I can't get up there the way he can, but his just pronunciation and the way he'll say a certain word within a phrase and things like that are little nuances I sort of picked up on, and that was a big one. Some of the raw grittiness of Marilyn Manson. I was into him. In my early years. Uh, Corey Taylor. Phil Anselmo. Everlast is another guy that I'm into. That I don't know. I kind of got a little bit of that's where some of the bluesier stuff I think comes from, and a little bit of the hip hop when that comes out. Not a lot of it does, but here and there it will. And because I'm into all that. I grew up in Long Beach, back in the '80s when NWA and Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg was from Long Beach, so was Bradley Noel from Sublime. That was some of my early years, and but overall, I don't know. There's too many to list, but those are some of the main musical vocal influences that I've had.
California fascinates me. I was there once. A friend of mine went to GIT. We went and visited him for about a week. And that was kind of the tail end of the hair metal days, which I grew up, if you were to ask me some of my favorite bands, I'm a Warrant guy, I'm a Motley Crue guy, I'm a whatever, and I've since, morphed into different sorts of things. I mean, Iron Maiden was a huge influence on me. You know,
Yeah,
well, when I went to
I
school,
ended up liking them later on.
well, when I was in high school, if you could play Maiden, you were a god, and it was like I just made sure I could play any Maiden tune. However, what was it like growing up in California during that time? Because, like I say, it's always been a I mean, I love watching the OC when it was on TV, and it just seemed like there was such a vibe out there that doesn't seem to happen anywhere else. Is that a fair statement?
There is. I mean, California, man. It's that's like the capital of Rome or something. But it's a melting pot first and foremost. California is a place where people come from all over the place, and they're kind of one batch of people.
Mhm.
And different parts of the country. Like if you're from Arkansas, you're from there. Your grandpa was probably from there, etc. Even the Midwest in general. Maybe even New York. But in New York, you got that's where people come from different countries, and beyond that, California, you get all of the United States all in one. Plus, you get parts of Mexico, people I'm sure come from Canada and overseas, and they all come to LA, which Long Beach is kind of like a little LA's here, and the Long Beach is sort of this little corner by the beach, but it's all connected, And I grew up during the days when, like I said, the Reagan years, the '80s and the '90s. I was pretty young in the '80s to really remember them, but I remember the Rodney King riots. I remember the National Guard running down the street with tanks. They burnt the DMV down in Long Beach in the middle of that. Even the Sublime song, they're using real police calls from, and it was crazy. I was too young to I was in maybe fifth grade when that happened. And there was a lot of turmoil in Long Beach. There was gunshots at night, but then you would go to the beach, and there was this sense of calmness, and everyone just kind of hung out. And I went to school kind of on the opposite end of town in Long Beach, so I meshed with a lot of different kids from a lot of different neighborhoods. For my first couple years in high school, it was just during the grunge. Nirvana was kind of, Kurt Cobain died right to the tail end of my middle school years. And then, a lot of the things that followed that were sort of what I went to high school with. Tool, was one. Soundgarden was Alice in Chains was a band I really loved.
Yes, sir.
And that sort of stuff, got popular. And then, the 2000s, the early 2000s, when I was kind of out of high school, and the newer sort of wave of metal was coming around, and things were getting heavier, and maybe even more technical in a lot of ways, and a lot of different things were happening. Korn was kind of a major player at that point. In fact, they were at one of the first. I saw Metallica, the '99 Summer Sanitarium tour at the LA Coliseum. That was my first huge concert I had ever been to. And I saw Korn was there, System of a Down, Kid Rock, Powerman 5000, and of course Metallica. But that was going on, so all of that stuff became a big influence on me. And the classics, of course. Me and my dad used to sit around listening to Leonard Skinner, Jimi Hendrix. Janis Joplin might as well have been my mother, growing up. And I lost my mom young. And Janis just, I don't know, she had that motherly something that came through the music to me. And, so there was kind of a mix of all this stuff. I played with an Elvis guy briefly, who's out in Florida. We're still friends. And I've done a lot of different things. I was in high school jazz band. My influences, outlaw country stuff. I don't know. My influences kind of go far and wide there.
That's cool, and I'm glad you're sharing that, because I was getting some of the, I'll call it industrial and heavier stuff out of the sound. The other thing I'll mention, a good friend of mine that actually lives where I live now. He played for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks and won the cup with them in 2007, I think it was. And he said they all those guys used to live in Huntington Beach, but they would go to Long Beach. They live in Huntington Beach, but go to Long Beach if they wanted to surf. I don't know if that makes a ton of sense or not.
If you're standing in the shore in Huntington Beach, you can look down the shore and you can see the white bubble, which is Long Beach. It's not even far. It's not very far at all from there. And awesome spot though, Huntington, especially if you're into surfing. I could never stand up on the surfboard, but I'd be down their bodies surfing.
I hear you. So, you mentioned you're still writing, and I got to throw this out. Newly engaged, Damian. I saw the posts. I saw you down on one knee.
Yes.
She said yes. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah. She's here hanging out upstairs. She just got back. We had a grandbaby this week. To set grandbaby number 2, little Miss Nova. But yeah, me and Angela, my girlfriend, we went to high school together, 29 Palms High School, last couple of years. We've been together in a relationship for 7 years, but we've been friends ever since high school. And we finally went through. I caught her by surprise. I think she was ready to give up that I was never going to ask. So
I saw the video, bud. You pulled her off pretty good, so that was good. So I got to make my $20 American, which is a lot Canadian if you do talk about Doug Franklin for a couple minutes. We glossed over him. I mean, I've known Doug now for I'm going on 2 years. I've never met the man personally. He and I have a ton of conversations. He hooked me up with a lot of cool interviews. We're like-minded in our likes, our dislikes. Talk about Doug Franklin and I guess what he's kind of done to encourage you.
Yeah, Doug Franklin. What a soul, man. I'll start from the beginning with him because we've only known each other for a little over a year or so now. But there was an ad up on Facebook that they needed a band out in the high desert for some event, a non-specific event. And I said, "Hey, Dirt Boys," and I just just threw my name up. One of those kind of things that most promoters ignore or whatever. And he hit me back and we got to talking. I go, yeah, I got a band that's been, around the desert. I, explained who the Dirt Boys were. And he's like, well, let's do Operation Desert Scream. I have Corners of Sanctuary coming out. And they were cool guys. And the Shark Fin, one of the local guys from 29 Palms, and were there. And Doug was promoting it. And so that's how the conversations kind of started opening up with me and him. And so I came down. I live about 200 miles from 29 Palms, and so I drove down. And finally, we met face to face. He was just one of those people that was, hey, what's up, brother? And we, hugged. And it was like I'd known him my whole life. It was one of those people, and he just was so sincere about everything. Right off the get go, and I was like, wow, this guy's really pushes the music, not just for myself, but everybody. I watched him promote for Shark Fin and everybody. I know he has so many different things going on online, and just such a unique soul. And I don't think I've ever had somebody so about promoting me in any way like this before. Like, I've always just kind of ran at it myself, word of mouth, and I don't know. He took an interest where I almost thought there was no interest. I've had a few moments where I just kind of like, maybe I'm too old for this shit. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm washed up. All these thoughts have gone through my head over the years, and Doug's like, that music, you got to do it. And then of course, from there, Purple Flower, I gave him a little demo of some stuff I had just recorded at my friend's house in his studio, the Deerwood sessions, which I'm still sitting on. I have those all completed, and just Purple Flower came up, which I didn't even record there. It was an old track that I recorded, a year or two after it came out, and I think that's probably the version that Jeff Westlake heard first, and Doug just kept on me. I didn't have any recording equipment yet, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to record it and send it. And then some things broke through. I got a recording rig and all this, and I started recording the song and sent it off to Jeff. And Doug has just been there every step of the way, kind of pushing and really wanting to see that happen. I'm going to see him here in a couple of weeks in Joshua Tree I'm guest hosting the old open mic that was sort of a big thing they had in Joshua Tree back in the day. And I really like working with Doug. He hits me up. We kind of have a lot of back and forth about what are we going to do next? Let's look at he sends me the tracking stuff on Purple Flower, and that blows my mind that it's out there in other countries. Even more so than America. I definitely saw it's got more plays outside of the country than inside so far, and which is fine by me. Hendrix took off to Europe first, and then USA was like, wait up, he's ours.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And you know what? And like I said earlier, Doug wants to be Canadian. And maybe I have visions of bringing Doug up here to Halifax, and we've got a thing called the Donair, which is basically it's pita bread with spicy hamburger and all kinds of stuff. The first time he eats it, I will get a picture for you if he comes up here, because he's going to throw his guts up all over the place. But you mentioned recording gear. Hey, I'm a worldwide podcast, and I'm still working off free Zoom, so I've got about 3 minutes, and then it's going to cut off, and I don't want it to cut off before we do this properly. So where are my folks going to find the song that you did that I was honored and blessed to play on?
Yeah. They are. The song is currently on Spotify. I know you can go to Spotify and get it. I believe it's on Apple and iTunes, all those things through a DistroKid. I updated. There is a Damian Lee Tyner Purple Flower Vivo should pop up, or Damian Lake Havasu, Arizona, because I'm like probably the only Damian in this town. And you would find my YouTube, which is Damian Lee Tyner, and I've been updating that with a bunch of performances and studio stuff, and some live feeds I've been doing on Facebook. So there's plenty of stuff to access at this point. Damian Lee Tyner on YouTube is a great place. Of course, you can find me on Facebook. The art and the poetry of Damian Lee Tyner, and Damian Tyner is my personal account. Hit me up if you need two people out there. And
We're going to crank this out, my friend. And thank you so much for doing this. Great to finally meet you. Let's do it again really soon. I'd love to play in another track. I totally enjoyed it. It was when I did it. I probably went over the song for about 10 days before I actually went in. And it was one take. I can say that it was one take when I did it. It wasn't that I'm that good. It was that I was that prepared, and the boys set me up for success. So it was great. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Hey, Sean, we'll talk again soon, man. It's been a blast.
We will. Peace, bro.
All right.